So, it's been a long and rocky road, but this year I started studying at university. It's early days, but I'm trying hard, I'm doing my work. Hopefully I'll leave in 3 years' time with a good degree. Statistically, the odds are in my favour. Not only do women outnumber men in attendance figures, but we are also bagging the best marks, the 2 1s and the firsts. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is probably where the positives end. Even now, I am fully aware that if I do manage to secure a strong degree and I'm lucky enough to find a job at the end of it, the chances of me progressing to the top of my chosen career are very unlikely. Why? Well, plainly and simply, because I'm a girl. Pretty depressing, eh? Any ladies in the room about my age, block your ears and look away now. No matter how hard you work, no matter how far you push yourself, the same is true for you too. Welcome to the wonderful world of the glass ceiling. We can see the top, hear the top, practically taste the top. But thanks to that extra X chromosome, the chances of ever actually reaching it are very slim indeed. In 2012, the BBC reported that women held fewer than 1/3 of the UK's most influential jobs. In Parliament, men outnumber women 4 to 1. Before he came to power, David Cameron pledged that by the end of his first term, 1/3 of ministers in his government would be women. So far, the figure stands at 5 out of 22, which is roughly 22%. Not too bad if you're considering a target of 30%, but if you consider that women comprise 51% of the population, the figure is actually pretty appalling. Let's stick with the theme of politics. It is, all in all, a vicious circle. The fewer women there are in power, the fewer women there are to represent female issues in politics. The less the representation of female issues, the less emphasis and attention these issues receive. The less emphasis and attention these issues receive, the less of the chance that female issues, such as the shortage of women in power, will ever be resolved. Boom. There we are, right back to the start. So, one of the more pressing questions, why are there so few women in power? The answer is both simple and complex. We live in a man's world. Why? Because, world over, not enough people, men or women, care enough about equality to instigate further change. Don't get me wrong, we have certainly made remarkable progress. For decades now, thanks largely to the brave actions of an exceptional few, women have been able to get an education, qualify in the most sought-after fields, and vote on a par with men. But the people who brought about these changes were few and far between. Far more common are the people who sit back and accept the status quo for what it is. Where does that leave us? Plain and simple. The men are still in control. A brief history lesson. In 1849, Bristol-born Elizabeth Blackwell became the first woman to qualify as a doctor in America. In 1859, she became the first woman to have her name entered on the British General Medical Council's medical register. In the 1840s and 50s, in both Britain and the United States, not one single female held a seat in government. So yes, Elizabeth Blackwell made history. Yes, it is a milestone for women to be hugely proud of. Yes, it happened because this remarkable woman had the determination to keep on going, to fight for the pursuit of her dream. But ultimately, it happened because men let it happen. Somewhere in a stuffy office, men got together and decided that, yes, we will allow women this concession. The same is true for when, in 1870, Ada H. Kepley of Chicago, Illinois, became the first woman to graduate from her state's law school. For when, in 1919, Sophia Stanley became the first woman in the UK's Metropolitan Police Force. Men allowed these milestones to happen, so the same men were free to place limits on them. Back to the present day, and we have certainly progressed. We are, however, still repeatedly bashing our heads on that unbreakable glass ceiling. It is not confined to politics either. Case in point, law. In 2010, statistics showed women comprising 61% of law firm trainees in England and Wales. For 20 years previously, they had accounted for approximately half of all people entering the profession. But here we reach a sticking point. Look further up in the food chain and it appears that, of the proportionate percentage of women slogging away in a law firm, just 20% will be promoted to being a partner. The remaining 80% of such positions go to Yes, you've guessed it, men. So, if this is the situation, and indeed has been the situation since time began, you would almost be forgiven for asking, what is the point? If the state of affairs seems this bleak, if it looks unlikely that complete and total equality will ever be achieved, what is the point in repeatedly hammering on the glass ceiling? All of our efforts in vain. The point is we have to keep on trying. If we stop trying to tackle the glass ceiling, we accept defeat. We eliminate even the possibility for further change. I believe that this generation, our generation, will be the ones to instigate complete and irreversible change. We will smash our way through the glass ceiling and anything else that stands in our way. How do we do this? Firstly, education. We keep on pushing ourselves in the most demanding university courses and competing with men to enter these top careers. More importantly, once we get there, we push even further, working our way up to becoming specialist surgeons, CEOs, partners. From these positions of power, we can instigate further change. A fine start would be abolishing all media that shamelessly objectifies and degrades women. Seriously, we are in 2013. How is it possible that Britain's largest circulating daily newspaper features an entire page dedicated to photos of topless women? What kind of a message does that send? To young girls, yes, flaunt your body in exchange for money and publicity, because really, what else are you good for? To young boys, it is okay to treat girls like plastic dispensable sex toys, because really, what else are they good for? Closely tied with this is the need for the drastic overhaul of the likes of the dieting industry, the beauty industry. The need to get women's self-esteem, currently shot to pieces, on the up so that we stop existing and start living on a par with men. Like this, slim fast. Seriously, what is this? Cosmetic surgery. Last year, 14.6 million procedures were performed worldwide. Guess how great a percentage of this was comprised of women? Half? Not even close. 3/4? No. It was 90%. So, I ask you ladies, what are we doing? If the majority of our energies are focused on preening, starving, slicing away at ourselves, we have less of a focus on climbing the career ladder, on changing the status quo. If we are locked away in a cycle of hunger and denial, or lying recuperating from yet another surgical procedure, who is out there living in the real world? Men. Work with me for a second and just imagine. Imagine if we ladies took the same view that, excuse the large generalization, men took concerning looks, appearance, and self-worth. How different would the world, our world, be? I'm sure I am not alone in thinking that it's about time we tried this. We owe it to those strong women who have championed our cause before us. More importantly, we owe it to our daughters, granddaughters, and great-granddaughters. Hopefully, by the time their generation are studying the history of women's rights, the conclusion will be one of equality. The girls will have won the battle, and the likes of the glass ceiling will be a thing of the past.